would love to know, in planning such a big trip, such a big adventure, how did you go figuring out how much this would cost? Kind of what your total budget would be? And, did you have like any backup plans, or how did you feel confident that you guys had saved enough?
Yeah, I love this question because there's no like magic answer, right? So I'll tell you through what we did. Because I also am like, when I talk to people in the FI community, I kind of chuckle. I was like, you guys, I don't have a spreadsheet. I don't know. I can't tell you my exact numbers on everything, but I know roughly how much we spend a month in numerous categories and roughly what our life costs. So on the low end, our annual expenses were $70,000. And I really wanted to push us to say, okay, what if we go haywire and we end up spending like really indulgently? Because I don't want to feel like I have to skimp on the little things in order for us to have a really good experience. And so when we did that test experiment the year before with the 34 days in the RV, we went during the most expensive time for, like, gas was $6.65 a liter in Canada. And our RV,
Gosh.
yeah, so it's like 3 liters to a gallon almost, right? Like it's like almost 12, I don't know exactly the conversion, but it's like well over $10 a gallon. And we have an 80-gallon RV tank, right? Like, talk about stretching and being completely uncomfortable. And we were like, okay, that's the high end, right? Like, that was really uncomfortable. I wouldn't feel good going over that, but we needed to get there in order to be like, not turning around because we couldn't afford, like we wanted to know what that would be like, because you can't control gas prices. We had no control over that. What we can control is how much we're traveling, how fast we're traveling, how far we're traveling. So, it was good for us because then we were like, okay, let's pull things in, let's park for a week, let's get things together. So when I tell you those numbers, 70,000 was the low end, 90,000 was the high end, we decided to save for the 90. And my husband was a teacher and had access to a 457. So when you separate employment, you can take those the dollars in your 457 and not be penalized below age, whatever the age is, 59 and a half or 55, I'm not sure. So we were able to use that as kind of our gap year fund. And once that was at 90,000, it was kind of funny. I just told my husband, I was like, okay, well, we're there. So anytime you want to resign. And it took him a good 4 or 5 months after that he was like, oh, yeah, I don't know that I'm ready. Like there's this weird concept around that. And then there were things like health insurance. There was really no way for me to understand that because I didn't know what our income was going to be. So it was hard to sign up on the marketplace because again, I was like, we're essentially going from W-2 jobs to zero. And for health insurance, it's based on income, not necessarily assets. And so I was like, I have no idea what to expect. So we actually had an unfortunate experience in the beginning of 2021 going into 22, where we were on a trip and my daughter ended up breaking both arms while we were biking in Texas. Now, I wouldn't say that was a really great experience, but what we learned was how to navigate healthcare outside of our network. We also exceeded our premiums or exceeded our deductibles on day one of the calendar year. So all of that to say is we decided to actually stay on Cobra for that reason because all of our deductibles had been met. We knew how to navigate in network, and it was just one thing I didn't have to worry about because I knew how to do that part, right? I knew we would come home every 3 to 4 months. We could do our doctor's appointments then. I knew how to navigate emergency room visits in a different area. And I knew it was a little bit more predictable. And then I knew what the premium was going to be. Now, that's the most expensive option again. But I was like, at least I know my numbers. And I feel good about that. We also had a health savings account so that we could have some dollars in that space. And those also could be used to pay for the Cobra premiums. So we also knew that's kind of a backup emergency savings. Even if we didn't, if we needed to, we could use those dollars for the Cobra premium. And then, there was other things that I kind of had forgotten about that in the midst of it, I was like, oh, this is found money. Like, I had forgotten that you can withdraw your Roth contributions. And so that was like just like a straw in my hat to go like, okay, we're good because we've been contributing to our Roth for 7 or 8 years. So we've got a decent amount in there that we could use in an emergency. And then kind of ironically, I was teaching a workshop on how to use travel rewards for family experiences. And I was building out like an experience for people, like, okay, what are 10 different ways you could use travel rewards? And as I'm teaching this, I was like, oh, why am I not doing this for us? I had like $7,000 in value of travel rewards. So we were able to like optimize some of that for things and do these like extra things that weren't necessarily a part of the plan. But it was always like, okay, we know roughly what we spend for groceries. How does that compare? You know, and there's like pieces of this too that, you know, were hidden blessings. Like our RV refrigerator is pretty small. So I can't stockpile a lot of things. And our RV freezer's even smaller. So we can't just like stockpile. I have 2 freezers in my basement here. It's kind of crazy, right? Like I can buy things when they're on sale and have a lot of things. I can't do that in the RV. So I have to think differently about my grocery shopping strategy. And there would be times when my husband would be like, whoops, Heidi forgot where she lives. So, you know, sometimes you live and learn a little bit too.
So how long was your total trip, and do you kind of have an estimate of what that total budget came to?
Yeah, so we ended up traveling for, well, I have an estimate for the year. We ended up traveling beyond 12 months. So we left in January of 2023, and then we came home in October for a little bit and decided we had plenty of money to keep going. So I know our total expenses for 2023 were just under it was a little over $45,000. So that gave us enough confidence to say, we can keep going for a while and really wait to come home to when we feel like we want to come home or when it feels more natural. So we did. Yeah. We kept traveling then. And I haven't calculated, quite honestly, the last 5 months. It's June now, so I guess I haven't calculated the last 6 months of expenses. But we're still comfortable, right? Like we still haven't used all of our emergency savings or anything like that, and we have more income coming in. So it's hard. I only do yearly budgets and quarterly budgets. Sorry, I'm not on my like numbers game there. But for the year, it was little over 45,000.